everyone, this is your boy Feltouch here, and welcome back to another episode of the Blue Monday Manchester City podcast. And in this week's episode, we have so much to talk about. We've got new signings, people leaving the club, also football matches across the world, and also transfer speculation. So hopefully, sit tight, grab a brew, and enjoy this week's episode. So first of all, to kick things off, I suppose we'll talk about the FA Cup final, which happened at the weekend. Although it's not particularly relevant to City, I thought it was a really interesting fixture, and hopefully could set the tempo perhaps for next season. So, to start things off, in the FA Cup game, it was a massive surprise at the end of the day. It was a real surprise, the fact that you actually were able to see an Arsenal win against Chelsea. Not many people were able to predict that. I, for one, was predicting a Chelsea hammering, I have to say, but to be honest with you, I thought Arsenal were the much better team in that fixture. Chelsea played similar in a way to what they did against Tottenham, but they could find absolutely no reply to when Arsenal picked up their second goal in the game. And it was a strange fixture just by the fact that Chelsea never really started to get off the blocks. And I have to say, this is a question which I'm going to ask to all you people. Has it been a disappointing season for Chelsea? Now, you may think this is absolutely ridiculous thing for you to say, but my reasoning behind this is because, yes, they've won the Premier League, but for me, I think the double should be a minimum for Chelsea this season, considering the fact that they've brought in a manager, they've spent a relatively decent amount of money last summer, and on top of that, they haven't had to play the European fixtures this year. They've had to play something like 10 games minimum, less than Manchester City have at least. 15 games perhaps. I'm not particularly sure on the exact number, but I have to say, the fact that they've played so many less games, for me, should have made them be able to win that last fixture. And they spent 3 weeks fannying about after John Terry's retirement, doing all these different things instead of focusing about football. And it really has distracted from their performance. It's detracted from their preparations for the game, I have to say as well. And at the end of the day, Chelsea just did not deserve to win that game at the weekend. They were truly awful against Arsenal in that fixture. And next year, if they have any desire to be winning the league, I think it's going to be incredibly tough. No team has won back-to-back Premier League titles in a long time for a reason. And next year, with all six, what you consider the top 6 teams playing in Europe, I think we'll go back to normal and it'll be a very tough, more even platform for next season. Chelsea won't be given the advantage of being able to play just 1 game a week, whereas most teams had to play 2 games every single week throughout the majority of the season. So it'll be an interesting fixture list, especially for next year. Whether Chelsea will be able to back it up, they've got a really difficult job of being able to back up their Premier League performance. I think they were pretty much the deserved winners throughout the entire season. But again, they were just very poor. And I have to say, the game against Arsenal at the weekend did remind me of when City played Chelsea early on in the season. When De Bruyne hit the bar from 2 yards out, really should have scored. And if he'd scored that, probably City would have hopefully been able to push on till the end of the season and really would have given us a lift. Whereas it did the complete opposite, gave Chelsea a lift, and they were miles ahead by that point already. And it just goes to show that Chelsea's performances on the pitch, although they've won games, their performances haven't been great, whereas it's been the opposite for City, whereas our performances for the most part have been fantastic. We've dominated most of our games. It's just the fact that sometimes we haven't put the ball in the back of the net. And hopefully, with all these new signings, City will be able to change things around. Now, last week started off for Manchester City in a different fashion, with them announcing all these different players leaving, including Willy Caballero in goal. He has been a great servant for Manchester City. He'll always be remembered for that fantastic penalty shootout against Liverpool. He's really has developed into the penalty king, and towards most of this season, I would say he's probably been our best goalkeeper. However, he is getting on a little bit. His contract is winding down, and because City obviously want to sign a new goalkeeper, he's obviously been let go. People are saying, well, how has Bravo not been the man who's going to be released instead? Well, obviously, Bravo's got longer on his contract. He said before in the MEN, I've read that he said he wants to stay at Manchester City. And obviously, Guardiola trusts Bravo. I don't particularly know what he sees in him. Although towards the end of the season it did get better, I think next year he'll perhaps be the cup goalkeeper like he was at Barcelona the last couple of seasons. We'll have to see how that rinses out throughout the majority of the season. But thank you very much, Willy Caballero, to your fantastic service to Manchester City. He was pretty average at start, but he's similarly to a few players got a lot better throughout time, and it's been a pleasure watching you playing goal. Thank you very much, Willy. On top of that, we've lost Gal Clichy, a man who's won been here since near enough the start of City, winning lots and lots of things. It's a miracle that we actually signed this guy for £7 million. And as I said in a video the other day on my YouTube channel, probably his biggest achievement was keeping Kolarov out of the team for as many years as possible. So I'd like to congratulate him for that. Yeah, I think it's about time that Clichy goes. I think it's unfortunate. He's gone down technically as a homegrown player, so he's fairly useful in that aspect. Unfortunately, however, his performances in the last couple of years have markedly decreased. He's been fairly average at times, and our wing-back positions has been a massive problem for City this season. We've conceded lots of goals from those areas, and hopefully next year with a couple of signings, it looks like City are already in the market for a couple of fullbacks. Hopefully we'll be able to change things around. But like I said, Gal Clichy was integral in us winning the league and also many competitions earlier on in his Manchester City career. But like I said, unfortunately, the club moves on, different philosophies change, and obviously he isn't fit enough to fit Guardiola's system. The next player to leave, of course, was Jesus Navas. Again, another player who hasn't scored in the Premier League in 3 years as a winger, is fairly atrocious. What I would like to say in his favour, though, is that he does work hard. Every single game he puts near enough 100% effort in, and I would like to say that apparently was offered a new contract but decided to reject it. Obviously wanted to move back to Spain. I don't think he's really integrated particularly well into society over here in England, just by the fact that he doesn't really seem to know much English from what I can tell. He has had problems with homesickness in the past, and I think it's probably the right decision, not just off the pitch, but also for footballing reasons. He hardly fits into the Manchester City philosophy which Guardiola is trying to imprint. Yes, he did okay at right back towards the end of the season, but like I said, he's going to have to improve as a player if he was to ever stay in the City team, and hopefully he'll go on and make a career for himself. He is getting on a little bit as well. He just didn't really ever seem to have much end product, but once again, I'd like to congratulate and thank Jesus Navas for his service at Manchester City Football Club. Although we also have lost another player in Pablo Zabaleta, and that Manchester City video they released the other day of all the fans going up to him was incredibly emotional. Zabo was in tears. I was in tears. And what can I say? We've lost him. It's such a big loss. And once again, I'd like to say thank you, Pablo Zabaleta. And he has now confirmed that he's moving over to West Ham United, which is a really strange one. Seeing him in that kit, it was incredibly strange. Him saying, "Come on, you Irons." Very, very different. I'm not really used to it. It's still a bit strange, the fact that he's been here 9 years and still really isn't. I'm still used to him being in a City shirt, to be honest with you. Of course, we've also lost his fellow right back, Bakary Sagna. So we don't really have any right backs anymore. Fernandinho's filled in there a few times, but he's not a natural right back. Fernando's played at right back a couple of times this season, and he's not done too badly in that position, but again, he's not a natural right back. And it seems that City are obviously trying to buy new right backs in potentially Walker, and I don't really know who else has been linked with us. We've been linked with nearly every single player under the sun. I mean, Benjamin Mendy's been linked, but I'm fairly sure he's a left back. I mean, there's so many different players City are allegedly trying to purchase at this moment in time. It's pretty crazy out there. Maybe Maffeo might get a chance next season, but as I said, Bakary Sagna's leaving, joined 3 years ago. Fortunately, really hasn't won too much at City. He's won 2 League Cups. I would have loved for him to see him picking up a Premier League title. Perhaps has deserved to. But I know down the years, he's picked up a lot of injuries this season. Hasn't really been integrated in the squad. And once again, like I said, hasn't really fit into the Guardiola system too much from what he expects of his right backs and wing backs. And it's just a natural thing to assume that he was going to be leaving at the end of the season, and he has done. He's getting on a bit now. He's 34 years of age, and I'm sure he'll find another willing club which will take him on next season. But once again, thank you to all those players who've served Manchester City. Now, in terms of other players which could potentially be leaving, according to many sources out there, it's believed that Kelechi Iheanacho has been subject to a bid from West Ham United. City apparently want £25 million for him. Whether that deal's going to happen or not, I don't know. It's up to Kelechi. He's previously said that he's happy to stay at City. It's whether City as a club perhaps want to sell him. In last year, he hasn't really kicked on all too much, but he hasn't really been given the opportunities. I've previously said that he's not really a Guardiola player. He's very, very deadly inside the box, but I think Guardiola wants much more from his strikers. He wants them to work hard. He wants them to be able to create as well as finish goals, as seen in sort of his criticisms of Aguero throughout the season at times. And whether Iheanacho will be at Manchester City Football Club or not next season, I don't know. But perhaps what I would like to see if he is sold is to have a buyback option included in his contract. Whether West Ham United will accept that or not, I don't know. But every smart football club which is selling young players seems to include a buyback option in the contract. Whether that means he'll go for slightly less whether he's actually up for the £25 million. I don't think he's necessarily worth £25 million, but he's still a young talent and he's probably going to score goals, and he's probably the sort of player which West Ham United need, and he will be joining good old Pablo, so it's nice to see the boys reunited perhaps again. Another player allegedly being linked with moves away is Enes Unal. Allegedly, he could be moving over to Valencia for around £15 million or so. Whether that deal will happen again or not, I don't know, but it will still be a decent profit for Manchester City as a football club. It's expected that City could perhaps add a buyback option as part of that deal. He did score a lot of goals in the Dutch League last season, but I'm yet to be convinced as to the quality of the Dutch League. We've seen John Guidetti go over there, and he hasn't really been able to replicate his performances in the Premier League. On top of that, we've also seen a couple of City players going out over to Holland, NAC Breda, where they've won the second division title last night. Whether those players will come back to City and make an impact in the side or not, I don't really know, but Manu Garcia seemed like he had a fantastic performance. But as to the quality of the Dutch League overall, after I watched the United Ajax game in the final last week, I'm not particularly convinced how great that is as a league, considering the fact that Ajax was supposed to be such a great team. They've been allegedly playing really well, I mean, as a young side. Yet when he played against Manchester United, they got a footballing schooling. So whether Enes Unal will ever play for City or not, I don't know, but there is a link that he could be moving away. Now, the other players which could be still moving on from City is Mangala. Joe Hart said he's not likely to come back to City. Allegedly, Mangala was linked with a move away to Valencia, but they can't afford his wages or the price tag, and I think we just want to get rid of him at this stage. On top of that, Sami Nasri still at City. Whether he's going to go or not, who knows? There's a number of players on loan at City who could potentially be moving on next season. But in terms of the moves into the club, City have acted very, very quickly in the last couple of days in signing potentially one of the best young talents in Europe over the last couple of years, and that is Bernardo Silva. He's moving to City for £42 million. It was linked originally around the €60 million mark, potentially a little bit higher. And people are thinking, well, this could be City's new record in transfer markets. So far, we've been quoted as having lots and lots of money spent on these players, when in reality it's sort of come out as being a lot less than what has been predicted. But he is genuinely a fantastic footballer. People have said, well, where's he going to fit into the City team? I don't really care. He's perhaps a long-term solution for David Silva. He's not the same sort of player. He can play down the middle, he can play out wide. It just gives us more and more options, and it seems to me that a few of the other players from this season could perhaps be moved on. We've obviously seen Navas leave, so he's going to be a nice natural progression to see him joining. Also, it looks like Nolito could be leaving City. I think he wants to leave, and I think it's probably best for both parties if he does. He hasn't really fitted in too much, hasn't really been played that much, and for me, this lad, Bernardo Silva, is twice the player of those lads. When he played against City earlier in the season, he's just genuinely lightning quick. He's so quick and turn. He's fantastic when he's got the ball at his feet, and it's really, really exciting to watch this lad play. United have been linked with him in the past, as have all of our players in recent years, but obviously we've had enough quality to go and snatch them. On top of that, his record last couple of seasons, though could perhaps be better, he scored 11 goals last season in all competitions, picking up 12 assists. I think he is one of those players like David Silva who isn't necessarily a stats man, but he's just a fantastic player to have in your side, and I cannot wait to watch this lad play. It's great to see City getting their business done early on in the transfer window as well. Now, the next player who could perhaps be joining City is Edison Mareas, the goalkeeper from Benfica currently. And he only moved to Benfica a couple of years ago for around £1.5 million, but has already seemed to have grasped the attention of some of the bigger clubs around Europe. And last season, he played quite a number of fixtures, picking up along that way 24 clean sheets in 40 fixtures. Yeah, I know you can read into that what you want, just because, I mean, City have purchased a few players from Portugal in the past, and they haven't always lived up to their expectations. But from what I have read, Guardiola has been interested in this player for quite a while. He seems to be fantastic with his feet, and that's allegedly what Guardiola wants from his goalkeepers, as to the reasoning behind the sale of Joe Hart. On top of that, he seems to be a decent shot stopper from what I've read. I've only seen this lad play once, so I can't really tell you too much about him. But he looks like he could be moving for around £33 million, and it seems like this is pretty much a done deal at this stage. Though it's not yet signed, it looks like he could be moving to Manchester City very, very soon. Allegedly could be moving, in fact, tomorrow, doing his medical and then confirming it. It seems like a £33 million deal has already been agreed. He's already said that yesterday was his last ever game for Benfica. He's a young lad. I mean, you don't usually sign too many young goalkeepers. I personally thought the City would like to sign Jordan Pickford just because he's younger, English, fits the homegrown quota, and will perhaps be there for a longer time. I really am a big fan of Jordan Pickford. I think he's a fantastic goalkeeper. Whether City will sign him as well, I hugely doubt for the moment as well. I think he could perhaps move to Everton, and that seems to be one of the talking points at the moment. But he's never yet played for Brazil. He's only 23. He's 24 in August, but he's got plenty of potential. He's got a long time still yet to play. I think there could be some complications with his deal because he's part owned by his previous club. There's been a couple of things to do with that. That's got to be sorted out, especially with agents and things like that. But it seems like it will be a done deal, and Edison will be next Manchester City goalkeeper. There's been some rumours that City want Joe Hart to stay, with some members of the board want to keep him, but that doesn't look like it's happening anymore. Edison looks like he could be moving to Manchester City, and as I said, I'm not really seeing him play too much, but from what I've read, seems to have got positive reports. Seems like he could be a very, very decent goalkeeper, and perhaps could be decent for the future. He's still young. And there's been a couple of other ones as well. Benjamin Mendy was allegedly linked to being in Manchester yesterday. In fact, he was actually in Paris. He's now linked up with the France squad at the moment, so whether that'll happen or not. Kyle Walker, I don't think Sky are taking any bets on Kyle Walker joining anymore. Also, Fabinho's another player who's been linked with Manchester City, can play midfield or right back. There's a lot of lads, especially from Monaco, have been linked with Manchester City. But once again, I'd like to let you know what you think of those signings City have made, and who you think City should sell in the comments section down below. And also, while you're there, tell me who you think City should sign in addition to the players you've already got. Thank you so much for stopping by once again. Thank you very much for joining me. Please like, subscribe if you're new, and help me get to that big 1,500 subscribers. We're incredibly close. If you're in England, hopefully you've enjoyed your bank holiday weekend. I've absolutely loved it. Thank you very much for watching. Arrivederci.